Hey everybody, and welcome once again to Tea with G. Today is this is the tea. I'm G, and today we're doing ginger peach. So cheers to you all. I've reduced down to almost nothing my caffeine content. Found I didn't really need it. So that's that. The subject, I've been thinking about this a lot lately in my ongoing quest to try to resolve or reconcile the apparent conflict there seems to be between the non-dual and the dual teaching. The idea that non-duality is somehow this thing out there, this state we're supposed to get to, this state of consciousness that is somehow completely removed from human life, transcends it totally, and once you get there, all human problems just fade away. Everything's wonderful, blissful, bountiful, yay, happy. Let's all sing Kumbaya. Now, that's never been my experience. And even though it wasn't, I kept thinking there must be something wrong. And fortunately, thanks to the wonderful and very gentle work of a Zen master, my subtle but very profound error was corrected. That there is no gap between them. That the non-dual and the dual are not two. They are two sides of the same coin, and the actual non-dual, the actual not two, the actual reality is totally transcendent. You cannot put it into words. And so it can be expressed in its pure essence as non-duality, as that which is beyond, as this unity, as this oneness of all things. Or it can be expressed in its duality. It's in beauty, in life, in the richness and vastness of everything around us. And both are referring to exactly the same transcendent principle. And every word I just used isn't it. You're it. The subtle sense of awareness and the awareness that's aware of the sense of awareness. Now you can see that those words are all totally inadequate. They're all words delivered at a particular level of consciousness, and therefore are only speaking to that level of consciousness, pointing to another dimension down. Now, the important thing to grasp from that, I think the most important thing, is that to really grasp the spirit of that is to embrace your human life. It isn't to reject it. It isn't to make it less than. It doesn't diminish it. It actually embraces the human life, every aspect of the human, the emotional, the mental, the intellectual, and the purely animal as it, as exactly the same, with the same amount of truth, the same amount of importance as the highest, most transcendent experience you've ever had. That your everyday experience of sitting down to pancakes is as important as your experience of total bliss and transcendence you've ever had, however you might have had it. There's no difference between them. They are two aspects of exactly the same thing. Which is why I said that the body is simply the fruit of this tree of life. Now, when the sense of separation, which is the birth of the sense of duality, the sense of duality as a sense of separation, there's a very healthy, a very genuine, an authentic duality, which is simply that which is the non-dual appearing as perceived form. The emptiness, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Without that duality, there is no experience. The one doesn't know itself because there's nothing there to be known. When it knows itself, you have what we experience as duality. Now, when that essential split takes place, which takes place in all of us, that essential disconnect where the undifferentiated consciousness suddenly is differentiated, and the experience that is just the pure unity and oneness of all things becomes discrete things. Right? There's what happens is there's a sense of a me that gets created that is distinct from others. Now, this may seem like a mistake, but it's not actually. Because that me that is distinct from the others has to go through a process by which it both retains its distinction and merges with the others simultaneously. Nisargadatta said that in that great awakening, that the sense of individual is not lost, but enhanced. It simply loses its limitations. So when that happens, at first, there's an enormous alienation. We feel we become identified with the body as being the body, rather than having or experiencing a body. There's the sense, I am the body. And suddenly, I am bound. I am limited. The body being constantly changing, I'm constantly changing. I can't find any point of reference. I can't find any consistency. I become afraid. I can become greedy. I can become lost. I become dependent on others. I become I get lost in my little world. And that sense of self being so unstable, it begins to cling to things. And as it clings to things, it more and more depends on things external to itself. It's kind of a perpetual childhood, because in childhood we are dependent upon others. And it's like we never grow to the point where there is a self-dependency that leads to interdependency or interconnectedness. And it not only cuts us off from that sense undifferentiated consciousness, it cuts us off from our own gut feelings. It cuts us off from life, from the body, from that sense of vitality, that sense of just being alive. It cuts us off from the whole range of experience. And now that range of experience is something external, foreign, and in some cases even sinful, right? Nature is fallen, you shouldn't have it. So I want everybody to grasp that your human life isn't a mistake. That every single event of your life, everything that's happening right now, the most mundane, from brushing your teeth to listening to a symphony, is that. There is no distinction. Reading an email or reading the Bhagavad Gita, there's no difference. It is all the manifestation of the one. And if you look at it the consciousness, the experiencing of the one or the other, is there any difference in the experiencing? Yes, the quality of the content is different. But what about the experiencing itself? A long time ago, I used to own a house in California. I'll never own another house. Too much work. I got all the things I had to do. But one of the things I had to do in my backyard, there was an apartment building behind us, and the people on the second floor could see right in. The windows had these, sliding glass doors and stuff, and so it wasn't safe to walk around, as you'd like to walk around in your own private home. So I put up on the back, there's a back wall back there, and I put up a trellis above it, and I planted some ivy there. And it took about 6 months. And ivy grows very fast, and it was all filled in, privacy. And I had all neatly there. And before I know it, ivy was popping up all over the place. All over the place. And at first I was thinking, what these ivy, and I tried to pull out the plants. And I realized that it wasn't a different plant. It was the same plant. That it was just sending up shoots everywhere. And it wasn't one plant. It wasn't a bunch of different ivy plants. It was one. I actually just planted a few plants and it went all over the place. And they were just sending up shoots everywhere. I believe that according to the legend, that Buddha's enlightenment was under a banyan tree. And the banyan tree is a very unusual tree. It's the only tree that does this. The branches go out, and these thin strands drop down from the branches, hit the ground, dig into the ground, and make roots. And eventually they take root, and that branch, that little root, becomes another trunk. I think it's like about 5 or something square miles, the largest banyan forest, that is actually one tree. They identified the center, the one tree from which they all came. Think of everything as everybody you know, every animal, every critter, every flower, every object, as being an appearance of a root system that you can't see, that is just bubbled up and fruited, right, in an appearance, where its actual substance, its essence, is under the surface where you can't see it. Like mycelium, that we call it the mushroom, right? But that's actually the fruit of the mycelium, right? And you see a bunch of them all over the place, and we think of them as separate things. They're not. There's this incredible network of mycelium all over the place, and periodically the conditions are right, and they fruit. Everything is like that. So the body is not one thing. It is interconnected with all things. So when we connect to the body, we're actually connecting to something much larger than the body and going beyond it. So for the longest time, I've in teaching meditation and other things, and actually energy healing, I've always brought people into the body, which has seemed contrary to meditation, which wants to go beyond the body. But my experience has shown that the more we go in there, the more healing that happens there, the easier it is to go beyond there. And I've actually found that beyond there is easier to find in there. That deep within us, in this place that seems to be in the body, but it's actually beyond it, there's an organic wisdom. It's even deeper than anything I've experienced in the transcendent states that I've touched in meditation. There's something very, very real, very earthy about it that is, I want to say, it's just different. It's kind of complementary. It's kind of like, Father Sky, Mother Earth. It's kind of masculine and feminine kind of thing. It's hard to describe. But I think the most important point I want to make is that we embrace our human lives. That's Lulu, the cat I'm with. That we embrace our life as it is. Notice how often, how much time we spend trying to fix ourselves, trying to improve ourselves, thinking about what's wrong with me. Oh, God, I wish this was different. There's a way in which we can bring in our desire to grow and to improve and to have better quality lives without doing it in a way that's self-critical or feeling or creating anxious or creating self-judgment. There's a way of just kind of bringing, yes, I have this need, but bringing into this space of acceptance where the need is there and you're there, and acceptance is there, and it's completely free of judgment. Because, of course, human life has needs. There's no getting around it. But if the need can be there without any story about it, without any need to process it, without any overhead, it becomes pure, the way a child's needs are pure. So, I think I'll leave it for there, for now, and check and see if there are any questions that are popping up in people's minds. Remember the ultimate destination of this is the enlightenment is both of the head and the heart. The distinction between mind and feeling, between head and heart, between intellect and compassion. That distinction is very Western. Much of what we read in like Buddhist literature or Sufi literature and the like is a little confusing. It was mistranslated into the West because we simply didn't understand that culture. The translators simply did not get, they don't have the same kind of background that we do. Imagine growing up in a culture that had no knowledge of the fall, original sin, Adam and Eve, devil, and all of that. No concept. It just didn't exist. Completely different metaphors, completely different model, that didn't have the split between head and heart, that didn't have this emphasis on rational thinking, that didn't see things as separate, but saw the Tao, that saw this intertwining between these things, that saw the dance of the masculine and feminine, and didn't see one as superior or inferior. Just imagine that was the context. It's hard for us Westerners to do that. And so we interpret a lot of the writings that came from there from that perspective, which is why a lot of times we miss the point. So I've mentioned this before. In Chinese, the symbol for mind and the symbol for heart are the same symbol. It doesn't have the same kind of distinction. The goddess of wisdom and the goddess of compassion is the same goddess. So it is this unification between all the various aspects of us that is the real mark of the genuine spiritual awakening. So I really will leave it at that. I said that before, but this time I mean it. Hello, Roberto. Good to see you. Back in Madrid. Back home. And there's Rosario. And there's Merck. Hello from everyone. He's not from Madrid. But from a dark and dreary cold night in Viking territory. There's Ava, back with our satsang family. There's Mary in Niagara Falls. Hello, Brent. Good to see you. Robbie in Romania. Carl in Ireland. Merck's got himself a cup of tea, just chilling like a villain, listening to the music of the spirits beneath the tree of life. Yeah. Hello, Dale. There's Dale in Massachusetts. Dorte in Denmark. Merck. And for dessert, we'll have some pie with fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Sounds tasty. One small piece can't hurt, right? Well, yeah. That story is about when we made that separation, that it was a mistake. Separating the two was a mistake. And that mistake cost us dearly. That was the essential separation. Of course, it had to happen. Because if it didn't happen, we would have been children still, or like animals. It would have simply been undifferentiated, and we would not have known it. The split had to happen so we could recover it and know it. We would now know it, be fully conscious of it. And that's what makes it godlike. The knowing of it, the self-awareness of it. And that's the human destiny. Jennifer, hello my beautiful beings. Savvy Stacker, hello, I love your coffee mug. Oh yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? Yeah, this is really nice. Thank you. Tabby, beautiful scenery behind me. Yes, that is just evergreen trees, of course, lots of that here in the Emerald State. And that's Lake Washington behind me. MS, I'm currently going through a nasty breakup. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Which makes me enter some terrible states. Do you have any advice on how seeing what you describe can be possible during an experience like that? Yeah. Well, first off, don't try to use what I'm saying as some kind of a tonic, right? What we want to do is to experience what everybody experiences when they go through a breakup. It's painful. Our hearts are broken, right? Whether you're doing the breaking up or you're broken up with, it's just a different kind of experience. Either way, it's painful. If you're the one, and if it's a divorce, it's even worse, because now there could be property involved, and it could take some time. It could get really nasty. My divorce was really nasty. It was very unpleasant and dragged on for a bit. And if there's children involved and the like, yes, I mean, you can escalate all the way up and down. Don't try to insulate yourself from it. What we want to do is not put anything on top of it. No stories, no expectations. We want to be fully present with it. When there's full presence with it, all of the overhead is gone. That means we have the complete open-heartedness to be able to fully experience it just as it is. Nothing additional added and nothing taken away. So it becomes an embrace of human life as it is. The first noble truth, there is suffering. You cannot have human life without suffering. And one of the biggest causes of us suffering is us trying to imagine and escape from suffering. The first thing is to accept, yes, this is happening. It sucks mud. I wish it wasn't. And it is. Just, okay, this is happening. Right? And take some breaths. Take some breaths. Settle into it. Right? So just watch everything that's happening in your body, what your emotions are doing. Take a nice step back. Just have a little bit of distance. You don't have to fix anything, right? You don't have to try to jump in there with any kind of fix-it stuff. You don't have to break out the Windex and squirt it off. Just get a little distance and watch it. When your mind tries to come up with some kind of a story, just go, maybe true, maybe not, but thank you. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but not right now. And see if you can just kind of check into some kind of deeper sense. Deep inside of all of us is a knowingness that knows the whole picture, the whole thing, going back to your childhood, going back to past lives. It knows everything, every little detail, the whole sense of it. So just see if you can maintain some distance. If you can't maintain any distance, just put your attention in the body. What is your body experiencing right now? And there's a practice there of your mind wants to run off with stories. Right? And you'll notice that the more you do that, the more tension, the more fear, the more anxiety you have, the more obsessed you get. Now, the obsession and stress and all that comes because we're used to going into our minds for solutions. That's another Western trait we have. We've all been taught to think our way out of things, when 99% of the time we can't. Now, if there was a solution in your mind, you would have had it by now. So there's a cycle that takes place. There's a difficulty in our life. We go to our minds to try to find an answer. We don't find one. Not finding one stimulates more fear in us. But because we're so used to going there, we go, well, there's got to be one there, and we keep going there. It becomes obsessive, and the mind just keeps rehashing, because all it has is the same old stuff. You go to the filing cabinet, and there's the same stuff. There's no answer there. But we've never been trained to just say, okay, no answer there. Let's look here. We don't know where this here is. So the first place you look is, all right, there is no answer there, but habitually I keep going back there. And that's where all the stress is coming from, because I'm looking someplace that doesn't have an answer. But the mind, that's its job, to look for an answer, so it spins, and that's what you're feeling. That's the horrible feeling, right? Is the mind dutifully looking for an answer and it doesn't have one. So, okay, just bring it back, breathe, some deep, slow breaths, and put your attention in the body. Say, where is the answer? There's got to be an answer. And it's got to be here because it's not there. And just see if you can just very gently learn to listen in a place other than the mind. And you'll be dragged back, because it's our habit. We've all been taught to do that. Just keep bringing yourself back here. Bring yourself back here. Now notice, I didn't say you just ignore the problem or meditate it away. So you're bringing the problem somewhere else for an answer. You're asking something else for an answer. Something that may not see the problem in the same way as your mind does. This is really important. Our emotions see things differently than our mind does. Our body sees things differently than our mind does. Our heart sees things differently than our mind does. And deep down inside, there's this other knowingness that sees it all differently than we do. I've had the experience of bringing it in, something I thought was really dire and pressing, and I found this space that says, yes, it's important, but not as important as you think it is. And I realized there's this thing inside of me that sees things very differently. I said, oh, okay. I just kind of settled into it. Now notice, I didn't try to do anything. The problem's still there, but I'm just taking it somewhere else for something that has got some better ideas than my mind does, that may just have a better solution, maybe even a bigger solution, because maybe there's more to it. Are you following this, MS? And is it kind of bringing you back here? Right? Because I know intimately what you're going through. Right? And those terrible states are always your mind trying to find a solution. Mind you, I didn't say the mind was bad. It was, get rid of your mind or anything. I'm just saying the poor thing is trying to do a job it can't do. You're asking your 5-year-old to wash the car or drive it. Wash the car. It may be cute to watch, but you're going to have to do the job again, right? It simply can't do the job. So you say, it's okay, thank you, right? And you, right, look somewhere else. Right? How's that feeling for you? Please tell me. Thank you so much. You probably made me cry, but in a good way. I've been in mind for months trying to find solutions. Thank you so much. Yeah. Bless your heart and bless the mind, right? It's the poor thing. It can't do this job. It wants to. I really want to help. It's like, it's okay. I know you want to help, but you can't. It's all right. You just go over there. You play with something, right? Do a mantra or something. By the way, Marcel, here, if you remember, Wonderful. Ah, good, 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 good. Good, 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 good. Brent, love you, G. Amazing opening. Can you speak more on the visual field? How the illusion of being localized in the head or behind the eyes forms? And how that illusion can be challenged? Well, first, let's understand what an illusion is. Okay? An illusion is a misinterpretation of what is perceived. Right? It is a projection on what is perceived of something that isn't there. It's, in a dim light, mistaking a rope for a snake. There is a rope there, but no snake. There's something there, but not a snake. Walking in the desert, there's heat and there's a sun and you're thirsty and you're sweaty and you're hot, right? And the heat's rising and the air is distorted. That's all there. The oasis is a mirage. It's not there. That's a projection on what is there. Okay. So the experience of being localized in the head, behind the eyes, is there. We all have it. You're having it right now. Am I am I wrong? You have the experience of it. Projected on that experience is the sense of an I that is localized seeing it. You see the difference? Because I have to have a point of perception in order to have an experience at all. If I'm seeing everything from an unlocalized position, I don't see anything. Look at this cup, right? You see this cup from here. I don't see that. I see it over here, right? Now, I show it to you like this. All of a sudden, this is just a mug with no handle, right? There's no handle on this, right? And I put it like this, and it's kind of this thing with, right? All of a sudden, now what if, look at every possible angle of this. Now, what if you were to see every single angle of this at the same time, including the top, the bottom, all of it at the same time? You wouldn't see it at all. The only way an object can come into being, to come into focus, is if there is a single point of perception. That single point of perception must be the experience of localization. That sense of localization means there's going to be a sense of a presence, a focus, and then we call it eyes, brain, auditory, visual nerves, all of that kind of stuff, and then we call it cup. Right? But it's simply a point of perspective, right? That it is now, there's the idea now that there's an I inside this that is simply a point of perception. And that's the illusion, not the point of perception. The experience of localization is, in fact, a point of perception necessary for there to be any kind of experience at all. Are you following? Otherwise, everything is simply this completely empty background. A perception must be there in order for out of this background, which is the potential for anything, for something specific to come out from the background and be perceived. The word exist or existence comes from the root word, I think it's in Latin, existare, which means to come forth, to be brought forth into existence. We tend to use that as, exist and reality interchangeably, but that's not the origin of it. So it's like it's kind of like the mushroom. The mycelium is there, and all of a sudden, out of that rises the fruit, which we call the mushroom, which is the fruiting of that mycelium, which is up there for a while, and sometimes it makes really tasty stuff. Sometimes it, trips you out and you speak to God, and other times it kills you. Interesting fruit, right? But it is simply something being called out of this invisible place here, and then it disappears. And so everything is like that. If you had every possible perspective at once, there would be nothing. Nothing would exist. So the illusion is only that I am this point of view. I am limited to this point of view. And you're not. But your human life is the experience of a point of perception that lasts as long as the human life does. Is that... sorry. I got the seed from a blackberry. Stuck in my tooth. Is that making sense to you, Brent? And now you want to challenge that illusion. You don't need to. Don't turn it into an enemy. The moment you want to challenge something, you've made an other. And so you now have created an enemy where there isn't one. You following that? This is, I'm slinking down on my chair here. I have to lower the camera a bit. Are you following it, Brent? And this is for everybody. We tend to do this. I've got to get rid of this judging mind. All right? Or I've got to get rid of this habit. I've got this really bad habit. I've got to get rid of it. Well, what if instead we go, wow, there's this habit, it's not very healthy. Why don't I kind of bring it into this space of love? Because what I prefer is to be free of that. But obviously something inside of me needs love. It's something inside of me is unsatisfied, or else it wouldn't be clinging to that. Instead of, I got to get rid of that, suddenly I've got an enemy, I've got a conflict. I'm at war with myself now. How can the illusion be challenged? So now I've got this illusion, I've got an enemy. Who created that enemy? You did. And you will fight that enemy forever because you have called that enemy into your perception. You created it. There is no enemy. There's nothing to be challenged. It is simply a perception. Oh, this is just, there's an illusion there. Boy, wouldn't it be fun to see the illusion as an illusion? The moment I see the illusion as an illusion, I'm free of it. Now, if I'm out in the desert and I see the oasis and I realize it's an illusion, I'm not going to go for the water that isn't there. I'm still going to see that oasis. Or if it's the dim light and I see the snake in the rope, and I know it's a rope, I'm still going to see the snake. My senses are still going to do that. Even though I now know that it's not true. I mean, we all know that the sun is not moving across the sky, right? When we realized that that was an illusion, the sun didn't do anything different. We just knew differently, but we still talk about sunrise and sunset. It's not rising and it's not setting. So our experience doesn't change. We now know it for what it is, and so we accept the way the perceptions work, but our wisdom overrides it in terms of our behavior and our actions. So there's nothing to challenge. When an illusion is seen as an illusion, it vanishes. It's done. So you don't make a big deal out of it. Just don't turn it into an enemy. Turn it into something that has to be fought for your benefit, so you can, gain your victory into the transcendent states. Right? You want to get enlightened? Get deeper into self-love. Embrace yourself in everything. Find everything in your life that you don't love, and find why you don't love it. Why can't I embrace this in my life? What is it about this I don't like? Right? Start answering those kinds of questions, and the illusions will fall away. Because that's where all the illusions are. Right? Nisargadatta put it this way: there's nothing wrong with the dream, it's just that you want that part of the dream and not that part of the dream. Simple as that. All right, I'm sure you're going to tell me would that work for you. Constantly seeing ways I make enemies with myself. Yep. And unfortunately, that's part of the Western heritage of the sin and the fall and all of that. When that kind of, without knowing it, influences our exposure to deeper spirituality and non-duality, it colors it so that, oh God, all these bad thoughts, I've got to get rid of them. Right? It suddenly becomes a moral thing rather than a liberating thing. Right? There are no enemies. They're only of our own making. Right? They're all in our own mind. There's no God judging us. There is no judge except in our own minds. And yet we were all taught there was. External authorities, external powers, these things that are going to get us, even after we die, for crying out loud. No such thing exists. There's no punishment awaiting you. Judgment Day is this second. The discernment between what's true and what isn't. That's Judgment Day, period. And the judgment comes with the wisdom. Oh, that's an illusion. There are no enemies. I had a feeling that somehow this thing was getting in my way of having the life I want, or a perfect relationship, or attaining enlightenment. Could there be something possibly be in the way? Or it's just my belief. There's nothing out there that could be between me and me. What can get between me and me? Nothing. Poof. The illusion's gone. That's the illusion. Eva, yes, there's no difference. Could I say every experience, the one called spiritual and the one called mundane, both point to the one that exists? Yes, you could. And I would say, amen. Yes, it's the mind that says, this is spiritual, this is not. This is mundane, this is sacred, this is profane. Oh, that even rhymed. I like it. Sevi Stacker, I love that about the banyan trees. Banyan, that is how you spell it. The only one I've seen in person when I lived in Miami, there was one on Lincoln Road, Miami Beach, which was this street that ran across Miami Beach that used to be a street, and they turned it into kind of a mall area, which is really nice, a lot of restaurants and stuff. And there was a banyan tree there. They're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, these things coming down. Barbara, hello from Viking Land. Another one in Viking Land. Merck, the vast massive banyan tree sprung from the most tiny little seed. Yeah. Oh, the noise behind my voice. Sorry, I should just get this out of the way. Unfortunately, it's Lulu, the cat, who is playing. She's very active right now, and she doesn't want to be anywhere that I'm not. I regularly cat sit for some friends of mine, and that's where I am right now. And she and I and the other cat Tiki have become very close. So she likes to be where I am. I'm gonna adjust the screen a little bit, put me up a bit, so you guys can see me a bit better. So unfortunately, I suppose I could pick this thing up and put it somewhere where she can't get it. Hold on a second. This is actually a thing I use to diffuse the diffuse the sound, the light. I want to see. There we go. Yeah, she won't be able to get that now. You won't hear the rustling anymore from the kitty cat. Carl, if I say I'm healthy when my body is ill, is that the separated self saying this, faking it until it makes it? I can observe myself doing this, so it's not the I am saying I am. Thank you. That's a technique amongst metaphysics and law of attraction and that sort of thing. If it's just the mind trying to convince itself of something, it's going to feel and you can tell, it'll feel very stressful. It'll be very hard to do. But if we are able to tap into the part of us that knows of its health, that is one with the body, and knows how the body can return to health, knows the steps by which the body, and there's a wisdom in the body that knows that, and is capable of communicating that to you. That's a different process altogether. So the law of attraction and the whole metaphysical thing, and a lot of the New Thought, the emphasis was on mind, the thinking. It was all about the thinking. Again, a very Western approach, so that it became, if I correct my thinking and I think now there was underneath this idea that you are the child, the idea of God, and therefore you are perfect. So there was this attempt to get to an underlying principle that wasn't just the mind trying to convince itself, so there's more depth to it than later happened with like the law of attraction, which was it's just the mind. You just keep doing it over and over again until it becomes your habit of thought, and then it will be made manifest. Underneath that sense of I am is aware of this whole thing going on. So you need to connect that sense of I am, not just to a sense of something watching, but the sense of a presence that is the nature of health itself, the actual source of health. So you're connecting the body experience up to that transcendent I am, and not just the sense of the transcendent. This is actually the point I was trying to make at the beginning of this, that they're not separate things. You're not just heading off into the stratosphere, like you're having the blissful experience, the ego death, and that sort of thing. It's got to come here. It's got to come back down here. The Bodhisattva trek is here, and then bam, back here. The classic story of the hero's journey is that the hero makes it, right, to the ultimate destination. They find the great treasure, but then they bring everything they've learned back to where they came from. To bring the gifts back to the people that they've left, to share the wisdom, to share the powers that they've gained. So, faking it till you make it, it's an approach. It's a very stressful one. It's a very stressful one, and it's not gentle. Right? I would instead be very, very gentle. I begin a conversation with your body. You can see that most people take the approach that we're supposed to tell our bodies what it has to do. And that is the approach, unfortunately, of medicine, of most psychology. Even I do a lot with EFT, and people will say, I never do that. I never tell it what to do. I ask it. Inner reconciliation was when I realized I didn't know, and I need to ask the energy and not tell it what to do. And most of the EFT practitioners that I have experienced, they're trying to tell the body. They're trying to impose something on it. Right? And I heard one guy even refer to it as an act of violence, which is, well, in a way it is. You can't tell the body what to do. It knows what to do. It's been unable to do it because of all the crap we've done to it, including our mental expectations and projections of what we think it should be and do. So, the foods we eat, whether we exercise it or not, the environments we live in, the stress we create for it, all sorts of different things. That's all part of it. And that environment, that's why we're creating programs in school, Lisa, because she's an expert in that, for nourishment and movement and all sorts of things to create an entire environment. And then to listen. Learn to listen to the body and its language. And then you find that there's a wisdom even beyond the body that's governing even the body. And you find that the body isn't separate, that's conceptual, that the body's connected to everything else. Like, they recently, how long ago, they've discovered that all the trees in a forest are actually connected at the roots. They communicate. And if one tree is low on nutriments, the other trees will send it to them. They're all connected. Now this blows our mind because we've assumed separation. In our assumption, we still won't let it go, right? We say, oh wow, isn't that amazing? It's so entrenched in us, we can't grasp the idea that this is one functioning entity of which we are a part. Your body is a part of. The wisdom of healing is already here. The real question is, how do I get out of the way of your healing? What can I do to provide you with the environment that allows you to heal? That's the attitude, the approach to take with it. That's why I use tap. That's all I ever do. It's like, what do you need? What do you need? And a lot of it is the energy patterns, trauma, childhood trauma has not been released, is there. The evidence for the trauma in fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, ALS, asthma, every major illness of modern times has a direct connection to childhood trauma. It's not even controversial. Matter of fact, in the book The Myth of Normal by Gawar Mate, he even talks about it. It's not an official study, but it was published in an official journal because it was just something that was noticed by the medical team of doctors treating ALS, which is a very severe form of cancer. The nurses could tell with 100% accuracy which patients were going to recover and which weren't. And they could tell because the ones who were really nice wouldn't recover, and the ones who were more ornery and resistant and had an attitude did. It seems as though the ones who are really nice and deferring and taking care of others, right, that is, right, withdrawing, not having any kind of that fortitude, they're the ones that it affects the worst. And they were just stunned. How could they tell this? And of course, it's anecdotal, right? But they were 100% accurate all the time. They could tell, and within like a couple of days, they had it. So it's all of the. We have to give the body the space it needs, which is why you're not trying to fix an illness. You're trying to open your heart. There's a big difference. So you don't have to say I am healthy. You say health is always available to me. You ask the body, what's in the way of you springing into health? Where's the energy blocked? And what can I do to unblock it? That's the question you bring inside. Does that help, Carl? Hello, Hassan. Good to see you. Tabby, can I achieve enlightenment? Well, no. No. Enlightenment is not an achievement, any more than being a man or being a woman is an achievement, Having white hair was not an achievement. Being hopelessly handsome wasn't an achievement. Just happened. Enlightenment is a realization, right? Our word enlightenment is actually not the right word. When the Buddhist text began to be translated, it was during the period of time when that word enlightenment, which was applied to the reasoning and the kind of the explosion of the scientific rational model, they called it the Enlightenment, right? Around that time, Descartes and Newton and that sort of thing. And so that word was translated in enlightenment. The actual word, mukti, there's some other ones, bodhi, is actually awakening. To awaken. The awakened mind. Bodhisattva, awakened being. Buddha means awakened one. So awakened is it means. And what is awakening? You awaken from a dream. Did you attain anything? No. You simply awoke to who you actually are, which you are doing right now. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't a certain amount of awakening already taking place. You wouldn't be drawn to this kind of conversation. And don't buy the Hollywood version says it's all or nothing. You are or you're not, right? There's some every one of these points of view, I can find the truth in it and I can speak to the truth in it. But none of them is complete. There's no such thing as a position that is the truth. They are all one aspect of the truth. And in themselves, they are true. Back in the 70s, I saw a demonstration of one of the early holograms. It was absolutely amazing. Better than any you've seen now, because it was an actual photograph. It was about 18 inches by 2 feet. It was huge. It was about 3 inches glass. The thing just weighed a ton. And it was a picture of a ship. And every way they moved it, it was just unbelievable. It was like holding a ship. It was that good. Well, then he took this thing, God knows how much expensive it was to make, and he dropped it on the ground so it shattered into a bunch of pieces. And then he took a chunk of it and he held it up. And you'd expect, like a photograph, to see a part of the ship, but you didn't. In every piece, no matter how small, you saw the entire ship, but only from a particular point of view. Every truth you become exposed to from every tradition is the whole truth from a point of view. So somebody will tell you it's all or nothing. You're either enlightened or you're not. It's true. But it's not the whole truth. Nothing is the whole truth. Only you are the whole truth. And if we make this about being right here, right now, with my human life as it is, rather than about some state I'm going to get to called enlightenment, then I'm awake right now. I'm in my life right now. Isn't that really all we want? To be happy and fulfilled in my life right now? Isn't that at the essence of it? To feel the fullness of my human life in this moment? I mean, isn't that kind of it? To see in my human life, reflect that my human life reflects something beyond my human life, that this moment, this personal moment, is also the infinite at the same time, that the timeless is is showing through, is shining through the in time. That's it. I want to see, me, GP, sitting here talking to you as the infinite, focused into this moment right here. So that this moment as me is connected to that. There's no disconnect. There's nothing I'm trying to get to. I'm it. Speaking as this, in this voice, at this time, with this face and this hair and this nose. Flaring his nostrils. Raising one eyebrow, as I can do. This brings it together. If we seek God right here in the human life, you find Him. That's where you find truth, right here in your human life. You don't find it out there in this state called awakening, or some special blissful state brought on by some kind of process, holotropic breathing or plant medicine. All of those are true. They're truth, right? They're not the whole truth. Right? Which is why I say, come home. Come right here. Right where you are. Where are you going to find the truth if not here and now? So you don't have to achieve it, love. It comes to you. Isn't that nice to know? The power that brought me here must bring me home. Isn't that great? It's not your job. You don't have to get it. Savvy Stacker. I have a difficult time crying, feeling releasing my sadness without experiencing depression. Meditation makes me cry every time, but I think that's good. I felt a question mark after that. I always feel better after. Sweet release. Okay, good. Very good. Okay. Well, it's okay. You have a difficult time crying? That's fine. Accept yourself where you are, as you are. Feeling the sadness. Let me suggest this. This is kind of subtle. But what I want you to do is I want you to feel the sadness, the grief, and all of that. But don't go into it. Feel it. But but keep a little distance. A loving awareness of it. You don't push it away and try to get away, but you also don't get into it, right, and become it, right? Right? Let the tears come, right? Feel it with all your heart, but still remain just a bit at distance away, like your loving presence watching it, right? Really close, really intimate, really caring, like you're holding a child, right? A really distressed child, and you're totally compassionate, right? You're totally empathetic, right? But there's a little bit of distance, right? So you're not absorbed into it. Little practice, you can do this, and you'll find that you can experience that sadness without getting depressed, and you'll watch it come and go. You'll watch it transform. And what'll happen is, what you'll feel then, it's when the sadness begins to resolve itself, a sense of well-being will emerge and not depression. The depression happens because there's an identification. You're in it, right? And there's no resolution. When you're in it, nothing gets resolved because the identity just gets stuck in a circle. But if there's just a little distance, that sadness will now resolve into a sense of well-being. And then you'll know. It's a different place. So give that a try and let me know. The I is enlightenment itself, says Hassan. No. The I, not exactly. True, yes, I don't want to contradict myself in public. True, but not the whole truth, right? The I is kind of the last pointer to the enlightenment, to the awakening. There's an I behind the I that is beyond the I. It gives rise to all I, right? Which is enlightenment itself. It's beyond enlightenment. Words kind of fail at this point. So I'll say, yeah, you're right. I'll just leave it at that because I can't really articulate what's beyond it. And just don't get hung up in the words. That's all. Right? Notice that you're aware of the sense of I. And because of the sense of I, and there's an awareness of it, don't put any label at all on that awareness of it. That's all. Good evening, Peter. Good evening, Italy. Jennifer, the bridge between worlds is so beautiful. The problems that seem to appear are no problem at all. The energy of love radiates. Everything is so light and lovely. Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that into the group, Jennifer, because there's this tendency to either get lost in the problem or find this place in bliss, and then we kind of want to push the problems away. But the real thing is to embrace human life. And human life, guess what? Has problems. It has needs. Right? Stuff goes wrong, right? Bills have to be paid. We want to get those out of the realm of the story and circumstances. We want to bring, I have a need. Boom. I want to bring that into the piece so that the worlds get bridged. The realm of this perfect knowing and understanding and perfect love meets. The word becomes flesh. Heaven comes to earth. It meets those needs, right? Rather than simply kind of explaining them away. So you bring the need in pure. Just a need. I need this. And no story, no explanation, no how-tos, no nothing. No, not even trying to manifest it or hold a good thought. Just, oh, here's a need. Like a child, mommy, I need this. Right? There's no, they don't have a story, right? They don't have a how-to, right? They're just, mommy, I need this. Pure. Absolutely pure. And you can see that a need like that is just pure humanity. It's just pure innocence. And we have those all the way up from birth to death. Is there any division between mind and heart? There? No. Not a bit, Tebby. Not a bit. There is no division between mind and heart. It's complete. They're just words. There's concepts. In the West, we've divided everything up. I love Gabor Mate because he says, yeah, we talk about the emotional system, we talk about the mental system, the brain, we talk about the immune system, the lymph system, the neurotransmitters. He says that's one thing. It's just one thing. You cannot separate you cannot separate it. The effect of one affects this. This is why he's saying it. Trauma here will affect this. This happens over here. It will manifest itself. An emotional problem here will have a physical consequence. Because the physical, the emotional, the mental, they are not separate things. The heart and mind are one. Not only the heart, the mind, the gut, the immune system, it's all one thing. We kind of bring it together. If we bring it together holistically, we will see that this is one functioning. And then we go beyond to say that this body is one with everything. And really mean it. Hello, Sally. Good to see you. how alignment arises among body, mind, heart, and essence. Well, it doesn't arise. The alignment's already there. We simply need to align our own ideas with it. We need to drop the idea that somehow they're separate, and we've got to bring them together. We have to recognize they're already together, and we have to realize that we don't think they are, and our ideas are off. Our ideas are out of alignment with reality. Everything's already in alignment, and us not thinking it is, we're actually mucking up the works. We're trying to fix things that aren't broken, and this muddies up the works. So just accept the fact it's already one thing, and it's already functioning perfectly. And the only reason it isn't enjoying absolutely the experience of perfect functioning on every level is because we're putting obstacles in the way of it doing it through the way we think, the way we act, the habits we've developed, the traumas that are unresolved within us, the things we eat, all the way we live our lives are based on our concepts of ourselves and essentially our identity and the concepts we have of life and the environment and everything around us. As those shift, there's more and more freedom both for us as individuals experiencing, which opens up the space for us to go beyond the individual, to experience the individual within the context of the infinite, and at the same time opens up the whole experience of the body-mind to function without limitations. So it's all one thing, which is the true non-dual. Dante, without the inferno. Hiya, do you believe in the law of equivalent exchange? If so, what about the infinite universe and its abundance? Or is it a false belief that says everything has a price? And what sees the infinite value and abundance versus what sees the finite lack of limit or limitation? Infinite law of equivalent exchange. People look at the functioning of the universe and draw conclusions, but whenever anybody looks at the functioning of the universe, they're not seeing the whole universe, they're seeing a part of it. And then they conclude with a particular law. Oh, this is the way the universe functions, as if that's the whole deal. And so they'll come up with all sorts of laws. Remember, at one point, Newton and his physics and Descartes and all that, physics was it, right? Here's the physics. These are the laws of the universe. They're everywhere. It's like this big machine, this big clock turning, right? And it operated absolutely everywhere at all times. It was perfect. Everything perfect. Well, along comes Einstein. Nope, it doesn't work like that. Relativity. No, gravity doesn't do that. It actually bends space. What? Now, Newton wasn't wrong. Newton wasn't wrong. Within this framework, physics is absolutely true. For you and me in our everyday life, physics absolutely true. Relativity has zero effect. I'm driving my car at 60 or 90 miles an hour, right? The fact that time slows down when you go faster has no effect, infinitely tiny effect on me driving my car or riding my bicycle. Right? It's only as we get, approach the speed of light. Right? So within this context, those laws hold absolutely true. We can count on them, no problem. But it's not the whole picture. So you look at the law of equivalent exchange, or the law of attraction for something metaphysical, or all of them within their context You can say, yeah, they're true. They work within this context. Right. But if you're trying to, if you're on this path, you're looking for this context. This context. No context. You're looking for that which has no reference point whatsoever, which is inconceivable to the mind. The mind must form a concept. That concept then becomes a stake in the ground, point of reference. It can make all sorts of theories and stuff around it. All philosophy is this, our economics, our politics, our medicine, all of it is based on concepts. All of it. And so, yeah, I'm sure the law of equivalent exchange is true within a context, right? And then I can step outside of that and say and show, well, it's not true within this context. So anything that purports to be an absolute, I will shoot it in the foot. I will cut it off at the knees. If you say, well, within this is dependable, I'll go, yep, you're right. So it is neither a false belief nor a true belief, right? It is simply, if you understand it within the larger frame of things, you see the mind must make references. Make a point of reference in order to be able to do anything. You don't make a point of the sense of identity is a point of reference. But it's not the truth of you. It's not who you actually are. This is why non-dual inquiry, the Vedanta, is not the same as anything else. It's a completely different way of approaching it, because it is approaching the experience of reality without that point of reference. It cannot use the mind's concepts as a point of reference. So it uses instead your own sense of being, which, not being an object you can step outside yourself and observe, you cannot apply a concept to it. So it is the subject looking at itself. So all of classical analysis, scientific reason, which is absolutely perfect for our material world, and given us all sorts of things, including everything I'm using to speak to you right now, does not apply to this. You need a different tool. And that's where the Vedanta comes in. But Vedanta isn't the whole truth. Much as a lot of non-dual teachers, that's it, all you have to do, that's it, you're done. No, it isn't. Because you also have to embrace human life. And now you're onto the Tantra side of it, where all of this has to be embraced. Where this center that is not a concrete reference point, a center that has no circumference, now embraces everything from there. The best name for it is love. That's the best name I've found for it. Anybody got a better one? I'll sign me up. But that's the best one I've found for it so far. But remember, love then becomes a concept, right? So that's the way I have to put it, right? And so when we talk about, you see, every time I say something, I'll say infinite value. I love that word, infinite value, because your value as an individual is infinite. There's no limit to your value. We put limits on ourselves, and therefore, so the value of any individual being infinite is a manifestation of the potential of infinite value of all things, which would be unknown unless it appeared as the value of an individual seen. The infinite value of you, which is just stunning, really, when you think about it. Right? But don't form a concept. Because all of these, every word I'm saying to you is a concept, trying to point you beyond concepts. Right? Infinite value and abundance versus what sees the infinite lack of limitation. Well, in the realm of duality, you're going to see abundance as a concept and lack as a concept, and you're going to see them play back and forth. That which is seeing them, it's completely irrelevant. abundance and lack, they don't enter into the picture. Because there's no things at all. And if it's just this one infinite, then there's not any other. There can't be, when it's infinite, there can't be any such thing as lack. But that also means that there's no such thing as abundance. It's beyond all opposites that the mind can't conceive. I'm not conceiving it. It's not like I'm sitting here knowing about it. I can't know about it. Nobody can know about it. Right? I'm just kind of sitting in it. I'm it. That's all I can do. I'm it. I can't know it. So I give up trying to know it. Right? And so words come, I say them. So am I making it clear? Just trying to draw the distinction. See, as long as you're trying to find good concepts, we'll find good concepts, and then we'll get attached to them and think, oh, this is the best concept, and then we're stuck in that concept, and it'll appear to be really good, and it will be good. It'll work within a context, and then our life gets bigger, and it won't fit anymore. Suddenly you can't wear the size 10 shoes anymore. But they don't fit. They're uncomfortable, right? You put on a little weight, they're a little too tight or something. And you're going to wonder why. Unless you realize, oh, it's a concept, and I can outgrow this concept. So, we don't want to get lost in concepts, because life isn't a concept. Does that help, Dante? Everybody? Robbie, in one of the previous satsang, you mentioned that when we make progress or heal ourselves, simultaneously someone else out there in the world. Can you touch on that subject again? Well, we don't necessarily heal them, but every time something inside of us awakens or heals within us, we leaven the whole world. We make it that much easier for the entire world to embrace healing. We make it that much easier. The entire human consciousness becomes a little bit more open. It becomes very tiny, but you just never know when that next little bit's going to go, right? Straw that healed the camel's back, that just kind of did the tipping point, that just, that one little card that we just don't know. So it's not like, there's somebody else that's going to get, but it could, right? It very well could. Spontaneous things happen all over the place. So we just have to realize that the work you're doing for yourself isn't just for yourself. It never is. You are working for yourself and everybody else simultaneously. Heal yourself, you heal the world. I mean, how else is it going to happen? What is the world except all of us together? Right? There's no world out there separate from us, right? Just like there's no mind without the thoughts. You heal the thoughts, you're healing the mind. If I heal me, I'm healing the world. If I work with somebody and they get a healing, I get a healing, the world gets a healing. Right? Everything moves up a notch. Right? It can't help but spread out. If I throw a pebble in the ocean, that energy goes out. It can't help it. Brent, so the person can't escape localization because the person is localization. Yep, that's it. The person is localization. The person is the point of reference that makes it possible to have an experience. If we see it as a point of reference, the person disappears, and it's just a point of reference being viewed through and by the infinite consciousness. Game over. That's it. Nothing more to do. Have a good day. Matt X. Sounds like Matt X. Private Eye. It's got that kind of name. What role does awareness play in life? awareness, well, what would life be if you were not aware of it? If there was no awareness there, what would exist? So awareness is the essence of all life. Now, I think your question is actually much more practical than just that. If we become more and more in touch with awareness as the ground of being, as the foundation of life, and that life has its roots there, we can begin to reconnect life to its actual, deep, essential, infinite source. Because there's no boundaries to awareness. It can be aware of anything, right? It has no limits. It has no center and has no circumference, right? Or you could say the center is everywhere. Because when you talk about infinity, it doesn't matter where you put your finger, it's the center. Right? So with life oriented there, rather than in some concept or some philosophy or something, it's got deeper roots. If I reference my life towards some kind of concept, it's only going to be as strong or as fruitful as that concept allows. And now, to bring it even more home, your experience of life is going to be completely a result of your sense of identity, who you think you are, who you believe yourself to be, will form your life. That's the essence of it. So your sense of identity, if it is simply a concept, if it's this is who I am and I'm limited and I was just this little guy and I've got all these problems, if that's it, then your life is going to conform to that, because life is a perception, it's experiential. And so, but if that sense of identity begins to let go of the behaviors that we've acquired, the beliefs that we've acquired, the traumas that have just been instilled in us, and a sense of the love of what's there that hasn't been traumatized, that hasn't been conditioned, that hasn't been just programmed, that awareness of the programming and the conditioning that allows us to free ourselves, that sense of identity from that, then the roots go more deeply into the awareness, and you see the awareness as an actual healing agent. Because now the only way I can get myself free from conditioning is to see conditioning as conditioning and not as myself. Because if I don't see that, I will be acting it out unaware that it's not who I actually am, it's who I've been conditioned to think I am based on simply habitual behavior. And awakening means I have awoken to the fact that it is conditioning and not me. That's a very fundamental and important awakening to have. That these are behaviors that were instilled in me. There are fears and worries and doubts that are just a result of stuff instilled for me, pains, abuses, stuff I've suffered over my life that have kind of played themselves out in all sorts of different ways. And those aren't really me. That these are habits and stuff that are in my nervous system, and they're not really me. That's an awakening, and it's awareness that brings that. So it's an agent of that realization and transformation, and it is the substance by which that transformation can complete itself and bring those roots back into a place that isn't conditioned, it isn't programmed, it isn't stuck. And that process, once it starts, it just keeps going until it completes itself, until you are totally free on all levels. Not just the realm of the appears to be the transcendent or the enlightened, but the very human level of human intimacy and compassion and love and family and cooperation and community, which is the experience of the infinite as the personal. Or as Buddha put it, the personal realization of Buddha knowledge. Does that help, Matt? Hello, me23. Okay. Mary, I love that enlightenment equals self-love. Yeah. Yeah, Buddha said, what would enlightenment be worth if there was no joy? It's all about love. It's all about love. Roseanne, hello. Where do our personalities come from? Thank you. Well, everything's got, it's just nature, right? Everything has a personality. Everything has got its connection to the group, its characteristics that it shares with the group and with others, and its individual uniqueness. It's just beautiful the way it's a combination of both. You know, you're like your parents, you're very different from your parents. You're like your brother and your siblings, and very different from your siblings. Sometimes dramatically so. Right? I call my granddaughters Pebbles and Bam Bam. So different. So incredibly different. Right? Same parents, same gene pool. And just completely different. So they're a very natural occurrence. The only mistake we make is that when we mistake our personality for who we actually are, we get stuck in our personality. And so we become confined to it. And not only do we become confined to it and therefore feel limited, but the personality itself becomes confined. When our identity becomes freed from that, not only do we become free from the personality becomes free from that, and it becomes unlimited. It begins to express itself in all sorts of ways you never dreamt possible. All sorts of things you could do that you never thought you could do. So it liberates both you from the false sense of identity, and it liberates the human self from the same thing. It is a liberation on all levels. It isn't just the from. It liberates the human as well as the essence. It's the point I keep trying to make. The human is important. It is not to be cast aside as just being this problem to be gotten rid of. It is essential. It is the self-made known. You could put it as, it's God thinking about herself, if you want to put it that way, or loving herself. So it's all very natural. Without that personality, there's no expression. We become robots. We become AI units. They could simulate it, but there's nobody there. Everything has a character. The two cats I'm with, completely different. Completely different. One is just the master of the house, It took him almost a year before he would actually, give me the time of day. Now he's my buddy. He'll follow me around. Well, the other one's like, boom, boom, just jumping all over the place, right? Everything does. So you, Roseanne, are unique in all space and time. Roseanne is. The infinite is neither unique nor it's singular. You can't put it anywhere. You are the infinite made manifest as Roseanne. Never happened before, will never happen again. As a matter of fact, this moment will never happen again. The self never repeats itself. You're not the same now as you were when I first started talking about it to you. You're already different. And that one is gone and will never come back. And this one right now. So what the personality is simply how the infinite appears in this moment. And that's why you can love yourself as the infinite. You can love yourself as God made flesh. Because that's what you are. So you might as well. The cats assist in finding the truth about life. I totally agree. They're just amazing. As Eckhart Tolle once said, I've lived with many Zen masters, all of them cats. Tabby, what are the spiritual causes of cancer? Are there any healing practices which can cure cancer or prevent cancer? It's all individual, right? And please don't panic about that. There are, again, I recommend the work of Gabor Mate on that score. I recommend the work of Peter Levine, who created somatic experiencing, which is all about releasing traumas from the body. The work of Bessel van der Kolk, who was instrumental in very early on in even discovering the trauma, and even before PTSD had been defined as an illness, before it even gotten defined. He wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. But Gabor Mate has just identified these things. It's not out there. It's not mainstream as of yet. And to look for it, what's the spiritual cause of cancer? It's not like that. They've identified characteristics that people, they're all traumatic, that people who cannot assert themselves. They always have to be nice, right? And imagine a child who always got in trouble, who was always diminished, right? They kind of withdrew. They could never get angry. It was too dangerous to get angry. And so they just were always nice. They always gave everybody what they wanted, right? Those people tended to get ill. Because the energy was all contained. It was all contained. And now that, I take it a step further and say that, there are three big areas in people's lives that they always seek healing for, right? The physical body, relationships, and money, right? Health, wealth, and relationship. Those are the big three. All the self-help. Those are the ones they address. If you think of those as bodies, all our traumatic experiences can reflect in all of those, in any of those. An illness, a blockage of the natural flow of energy. I heard Gabor Mate speak, and he read the obituaries of two people, both who had died at the age of 55, way too young. One was himself a doctor. Both had died of cancer. And the obituary talked about this doctor who was so dedicated to his work, that he worked up to the day before he died. And Gabor said, could you imagine you got a friend, he's been diagnosed with cancer, he's going through chemo and radiation therapy. Your advice would be to tell him, Doc, go to work every day, just keep serving all those people, don't bother about yourself. Right? He says, it's insane. But that's it, right? Don't take care of yourself. Don't give yourself any attention. Don't do any self-care. Don't do me time. These things pile up, and they have real, honest-to-God consequences. And we live at a time where more and more of us are being demanded that we do not give ourselves any genuine care. Lots of bullshit care, right? Lots of meaningless care. So I'm not sitting here trying to promote anything and say there's this cause of cancer. I can't say that. I'm not a doctor. I'm a journalist, really. I'm looking at what people who are qualified to say about these things say. Right? I actually had one video taken down for some comment that they said I made. I was actually saying exactly the opposite, but they took one clip in which I said this thing that they interpreted. If they'd seen the whole thing, they said I was actually building up to make exactly the opposite point, and they said I was spreading misinformation. They took the video down. They may do the same with this because of what I just said there, because they'll take a little clip, some robot will go looking through the thing for some keywords and take it down. We'll see. So I can't speak to that, right? Say, there's this cause. No, I can't do that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified. What I'm showing you is there are people who are qualified to do this. And there's lots of research to show that. What I can say is that there is a connection. Take care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. Take care of the one who takes care of everyone else. It really is important. Take care of your human life. I see so many people on the non-dual spiritual path, and they think, well, one of these, I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep knowing, and I'm going to keep letting go of this, and I'm going to be, doing all the self-inquiry, and then eventually, when I finally awaken, all this stuff's going to go away, completely ignoring their human life. The simple fact is, it's realized here and now as the human being. The personal realization of Buddha knowledge. It is not abstract, it is not out there, it is not otherworldly. It is right here. So, hopefully this video does not get taken down. Andrew, hey G, sounds from what you're saying that you don't believe the body is a projection of the mind, i.e. an illusion. If the answer to stop the mind, then surely the body, if successful, will vanish. No, that's not the case. The illusion is that the body exists separate from everything else. That I am an entity inside an existence of a body. But the same holds true for a mind. The mind that would project a body is also an illusion. Right? That's what people miss. Oh, the body's an illusion. Well, so is the mind. The mind is an illusion. What is the mind? What's your actual experience? You don't experience a mind. You experience a flow of thoughts. And one of these thoughts happens to be a body. Do you experience a body? No. You experience a flow of what we call sensations. If you close your eyes for a moment, there's no body. There's just this field of sensation. So body is a concept laid upon the experience that we call sensation. So the body doesn't exist as a thing. That's the illusion. The mind doesn't exist as a thing. That's the illusion. So none of them are a projection. The projection is the sense of an object that exists separate from consciousness. The body, thoughts, all of this, the sensations are nothing but consciousness. They're not manifest. They are consciousness. Consciousness knowing itself. They're made of consciousness, right? The idea of a body as an external thing is the illusion. But there's nothing projecting on that. It is the thought of projection, but there's no thing projecting. The consciousness doesn't project. Okay? What appears in consciousness is the notion of projection, which requires a mind and an object to project upon. But both of those are objects appearing in consciousness. You follow? In order to have a projection, you have to have a mind. But the mind doesn't exist either. They're all an illusion. The illusion being something existing independently. The illusion of a mirage is that there's something existing outside of the mind that's seeing it. Are you following that? That's what it's meant by projection. And projection is a good word, but don't get lost in the word, right? What's doing the projection? Projecting, right? What's doing the projecting is not an entity. All of it is simply what's appearing to, in, and made of consciousness. And doesn't exist separate from it. Did I cover that, Andrew? You just have to step back a little bit further, right? Because you see that the projection then assumes the mind. Well, then what's the mind? Keep going until you find something that, oh, this is what is. And that consciousness, again, don't turn that into a concept, because that's you. Right? If I turn it into a concept, then it's conscious something there that I'm projecting. Right? Oh, who's the I? Consciousness then becomes an illusion. Right? When I'm talking about you. I'm talking about that which is hearing my words right now. Bring it home. Bring it on home to me. Mm-hmm. Bring out my harmonica. How can we release childhood trauma? Release to some dormant trauma triggers. Share your experiences of releasing trauma. It has to be released from the body. The body is a field of energy. It's a field of information. As Bessel van der Kolk says in the book, the body keeps the score. As Peter Levine, in his book, Waking the Tiger. There's a wonderful book, also by Peter Levine. It's very short. It's called Healing Trauma. I highly recommend it. It's very little. It's a little bit about the theory behind it, and then a book of just a bunch of exercises you can do to help open up the body to release this stuff. I've gone to sessions of somatic experiencing, which is the process that Peter Levine created, which is just a whole bunch of processes for releasing things out of the body. It's deeply profound, and a very an incredibly rich experiencing. I had an incredibly abusive experience as a child that left indelible marks on me for a long time. They're still there, that are still influencing, and so I'm not done. I'm not done, and I notice something, and I go, okay, if there's still some energy there, and I sink deeply into it. But I seek the answer in the body. But for me, the body's not a thing. Right? My non-dual understanding informs this. I don't see it as a thing where stuff stuck in it. Right? I see it as a field of energy, and energy. The whole energy, the universe is nothing but a flow of energy, is it? But from the non-dual perspective, it's not a flow of energy out there. It is consciousness itself. And so this flow of energy is flowing, and some places it's stuck. That stuckness is the trauma. And for the most part, it's not something you can do on your own. It's one of the reasons I lowered all my prices for one-on-one, for private sessions. I lowered them all, as has Lisa, but she focuses more on the wellness and adjusting your life to accommodate it, and I focus more on the deeper work. And there are sometimes I will refer people to others who may need stuff that I can't do. And so so that's why I lowered it and even made a sliding scale. Because I know this is the kind of work that people need, and I've really come to see that even the deeper insights that many people are quite capable of having, the deeper experiences that non-dual self-inquiry is capable of, are not happening simply because there's just too much stuff in the way, and the Western mind is just too cluttered. There. I said it. Barbara, ALS is a neurologic illness. Really? Not cancer. Well, I could probably confuse those because I heard a bunch of stuff because, again, I'm just learning about this stuff. I heard Governor Monty, he was talking about a bunch of stuff, so ALS, yeah, you're right. I stand corrected. Another proof that I am not a doctor. Oh. To the enlightened and awakened part, I heard that sleep is healing for the physical, so it wouldn't be in the best interest to wake up a damaged humanity before it is ready, maybe. Yeah, it's kind of like, I've worked with people who have had the Kundalini experience prematurely. Talk about, the Kundalini awakening. And there's also people who want to promise it. And they'll take you through this thing, you have that. And their lives are a wreck. And yet, I couldn't make the two people I work with, I couldn't make either one of them let go of it. They become so adept, they didn't want to let go of it. They wanted that promise. They thought there was this pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, and their lives were a mess. It happens with plant medicine too. They're not ready for it. They're not ready for that kind of an opening. There is a preparation that has to take place. So I really believe the awakening of humanity, although I really wish it would speed up, I think it has to go at the pace that it is. We can only go as fast as we can go. And the West is a very different place. A lot of the Buddhist teachers, Zen teachers, and my new friend I have who's a Sufi master said the same thing. The Sufi teachers came here, and they were just dumbfounded. Their traditions came over. They didn't know how to deal with the Western mind. It was so different, right? It's taken 100 years to be able to kind of piece some things together to be able to teach it to the Western mind, and they're still struggling with it because the state of mind of the West is very different than the state of mind of the East. So you can wake people up before they're ready, and it happens. And I think there's some aspects of me that happened to me. I wasn't ready for it, and it did kind of overturn the apple cart rather than just kind of shuffle it a bit. And I've seen it in others as well. There's a gentleness that has to happen, right? And that's something that has to be brought to bear, especially with non-dual teachers. And the Western mind. Mary, you just answered my question before I asked. Thank you. Which question is that, Mary? Thank you, GP, says Sabby. You're right. I'm it. It's beautiful. And it's just here and now. The bridge. It just happened. Uncontrollable happiness. Oh, I wish to feel this. I've remained detached from form somehow. It just keeps going. This light inside keeps radiating. Creep in with reasons to dip my toes in. I've allowed it all to be. Unfold as it is. Spiritual mind creeps in to remind me I cannot hold on to this, yet the no story. Just live in the now, life living life. Thank you, Baba, for pointing. Keep tapping at the egg. I'm tapping back. I love it. It's beautiful. Oh, wonderful, Jennifer. Yes, whatever it is, let it in. That's it. That's all you have to do. Just keep a little distance, but whatever it is, let it in. However mundane, however ugly, right, or however beautiful, let it in. That's the key. This inner heart can handle anything. Truth Loops. Oh, I haven't seen you for a while. My favorite cereal. Greetings, G. Wonderful to see you. Much love. Haven't stopped by in a while, but then again, I've been here the whole time. Lovely. Let's see. Oh, Marcel, did I miss you? Hello, Marcel. So good to see you. Oh, I missed you, brother. Sarah K. Hello, Sarah. Hi, G. Grandpa Peace. Thank you so much for sharing about quitting caffeine, motivating, inspiring, as I've been getting similar nudges. You know, you get the nudge, you got to kind of follow through, even you go, I don't want to, I like mine. I even bought decaffeinated coffee. I like my coffee. Thank you. Leonore. Oh, Leonore, I love you. Thank you, G. I appreciate your time and effort. Dante, thank you for that. You're wonderful. Water that washed the old life into the now. Yes, spontaneous happiness with no issues. Good, good. Person is just a point of reference. I like it. Yeah. Right? And without a point of reference, you don't see anything. So it's important. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Roseanne. The now is now. Every moment is now. Yep. So, perfect. I'm curious how all that you're saying pertains to personality disorders as a diagnosis. I have a psych education background, and I've often wondered about this diagnosis. Well, again, the diagnoses are necessary, right? Especially, you know, in the profession, you have to put, you know, you have to put a framework around it. You have to. Right? So I'm not denying it. I don't put down medicine. I don't put down any of it. You know, there's a part of me that wished I had actually gone to school and studied this stuff. Part of me goes, maybe you should go back and learn some of this stuff. It's like, gee, you're 71 years old. By the time you get a degree, it's like, okay, right. So I have to be more of the journalist, study it, or like Jane Goodall. You just kind of like, you know, throw yourself in and do it and learn it. But within each one of the disciplines, you have to put a corral around it. You just have to. So I don't have any problem with it, the DSM-5 and all of that. So when I approach it, somebody says, okay, I've got this kind of a disorder. And, you know, all the best people in the field I've talked to, they realize that, you know, that it's kind of the stake in the ground. You start there, right? You know, early on, the immature, you know, think, well, that's it. And okay, here's what you prescribe for that. But no, it's not really. It's way more nuanced. You start there, and it's like everybody's experience. So there's the dominant symptoms, but okay, what does it feel like to you? And I have people come to me and they have a certain diagnosis. Like, I'm not a doctor. I can't do anything about that. I'm not doing anything with that. But with me, there's the diagnosis. Now, set that aside for a second and just tell me exactly what you're feeling. And they'll talk about, I have this symptom, and that's the diagnosis. Tell me about the symptom. What does it feel like? And we explore what it feels like to them, which is a different experience. So now it becomes more nuanced, right? And when you're talking about a personality disorder, what you're talking about is a character, you know, our personalities form partially out of our nature, right? Our unique individuality. But that individuality has to interact with the environment, right? And has to be able to function within the environment to get its needs met. And eventually, if the environment isn't too hostile, to, you know, morph into a personality that allows it to live life functionally, you know, get a job, have some success, find a mate, family, and you know, everything that makes, you know, a healthy human life. The disorders seem to come about when, and sometimes it can be, you know, a genetic thing or, you know, life, but most of the time it isn't. Most of the time that the individuality and the environment they're just at loggerheads, right? And maybe the nervous system simply can't find a way to function within it, and just kind of gets distorted. The way it finds to function is just very distorted, and it kind of gets stuck in a pattern. Now that's my very uneducated novice look at it, and that's just from my own observations in my own experience of it, both from having to deal with the weird stuff that came up in me, being in an incredibly abusive environment, but also I came from a family that had a history of mental illness. there was all sorts of weird stuff with weird things going on. And my brother even found, my brother's really into the genealogy thing, and he's trying to dig up all this stuff, and he's found some crazy people going back, right? On my mother's side, not on my father's side. They were all like politicians and things like that, dishonest folks on that side. Nice combination, right? Ta-da! This is what you get. Old eggs too, right? On top of that, so that's my assessment of it, which is again is conceptual, because when I'm actually working with somebody who's having a problem, if I see, and I have seen it, where I can tell that it's, this is more than I can do as an energy healer and a spiritual teacher. They need somebody professionally. Now, oftentimes what'll happen is they can't get it, right? They don't have insurance, or insurance doesn't cover it, or whatever, in which case I do as best I can. I never try to play the professional role. So my experience with people is just trying to love them, to just give them the one thing they didn't get, which is unconditional love, and safety, that sense of safety, because that's where it all came from. It simply wasn't safe to be yourself. That's the primary trauma, right? That's the thing that happened to all of us. So I hope that answers your question, Savvy Stacker. I just see this person very carefully stacking things. Oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, it's so, I know there's a whole train of thought that wants to just put everything in neat little boxes, right? And there's some argument for that. Like I said, there's truth in all of it, right? But it's always nuanced. It's always nuanced. And the moment you put somebody in a box, it's like their opportunity for healing goes down, because nobody can be put in a box. We're all just too different. Everything is just too complex. Human beings just can't do that. And a lot of the time, although I'm seeing so much, that psychology has changed so dramatically over the last 20 years, so open to energy healing and all the work, all the stuff that's happened the last 20, 25 years. It's just spectacular. That is just open to a whole new way of saying, of doing things. That it's really transformed. That it isn't so. It is recognizing the utter complexity of individuals. That you just can't do that. You just can't do that. And so thanks for that question. How many more questions have I got here? Oh dear. Jay, Hariom, G. Last week's looking class, Notice mentioned how we're going to work on something. You said something along the lines of, no need to work on it. That's not exactly what you said, but I get the gist of it. The work is now. Or more like the loving attention. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to work on it. Can you feel the energy of that? Right? It's like, I got this problem, I'm going to really work on it. All right, now we're going to really work on it. You can really see, you make the problem by that. Right? Instead it's like, all right, there's this thing here. There's me, and something's not quite right. Now, in that sense, the problem has a different energy about it. But then really work on the problem. It becomes this thing. It becomes bigger than it actually is, right? So you want to kind of reduce it back to just kind of, well, there's something here. There's a need not being met. There's some kind of an obstacle I don't seem to be able to get by. And I know that all the obstacles are energetic. They're really primarily, if not totally, within me. So you want to make sure that it's really, okay, where am I at right now? What's the feeling right now? What's going on in me right this this moment? Can I bring this sense of a problem into a nice safe space inside of me, rather than turning it into the work that has to be done? Can you feel there's just a difference in the spirit and the energy of it? Just like I don't want you to create enemies, right? I don't want you to create problems. I don't want you to turn it into this thing, right? This little demon out there that's messing up your life, because that's all in the mind. We all, in our lives, run into these places where things aren't going the way we want. Things are popping up we're not expecting. They're kind of throwing us for a loop. Right? Okay, that's real. Right? This is life, not necessarily a problem. So you can call it a problem. You can call it a need. You can call it an experience that is not quite what I expected. I wanted to go here and I find myself over here. Or I really want my life to get here and I don't know how to get there. Now those are all natural to life, right? No problem. But I don't want to turn it into a battle with this. I want to see it as this, okay, to really bring it right here to me right now in the most loving and safe environment I possibly can. That's the healing environment. Then I use whatever tools are at my disposal. I can tap, I can just be very quiet with it. I can listen to the body, I can open up space, I can inquire in it, with it. I can, what is it that you need? I can just sit with it. All sorts of ways can open up. But now we kind of bring what we call a problem into our heart rather than making an external object that I have to deal with. Completely different context. Right. The loving attention. Right. Bring it into the heart. But still, there's a distance there. You're still in charge. Right? Right. It's still serving you, but it's no longer, an enemy out there. The self that repeats itself is not the self. It would be the objectified self. True. Understood, G. Thanks. Welcome. Roseanne. I don't know why, but I cried also in a good way and laughed. I love that about the cats. I feel better and understand. Thank you so much. Love you. Good. You don't have to know why you cried. Your body cried. The more I see this, the more I just have to smile. Lots of stuff come up. Why does that happen? Our mind wants to understand. Your mind doesn't have to understand. The world of the energetic is irrational as far as your mind is concerned. It makes sense to itself. It doesn't have to make sense to you. Look, if you got some major problem that got healed or some financial thing just resolved itself, do you care why? Do you care how it happened? Are you going to say, well, I'm not going to accept this until I know why it happened? Who cares? If a trauma, a deep wound from the past can be resolved without you ever having any idea what it was, are you going to reject it, or are you going to be down with that? Look, I don't want to know anything I don't have to know. In fact, sometimes the rising up within us, the memory of the traumatic event can be as traumatizing as it was then, which is why we're not aware of it. That's why it's being held. And so the body, I'm calling it the body, it's not really, the whole energy system that works, right, to keep this stuff at bay, can actually show you a scene that didn't happen. Because you can handle this, and you can't handle what did. And through that, as a surrogate, we'll release what did happen. So we can have false memories. You can remember something, oh, that really happened, and it didn't. It's simply how this wants to how to express to you what it is feeling. It can come like a memory from a past life. It may be, it may not. It may be a memory from childhood. It may be not. It may be a mixture of things that happened and didn't happen. Right? So all you do is go, whatever happened, okay, I accept it. It doesn't have to be historically a fact. It is metaphorically a fact. It is mythological. It is the story you're being told, you are on a need-to-know basis. And as far as I'm concerned, fine. Fine. If I'm the last, I don't have to know. Keep me in the dark. I'm fine. Toya B, thank you, GP, your love. Please share your consulting charges. I've lowered it, as Lisa. I used to charge $150 for a session. I now have a sliding scale: $55, $75, or $95 for 50 minutes to an hour. Lisa used to be like $120, and now she's the same: $55, $75, $95. So if your question is about nutrition or Oop, my mic just got lost for a second. Let's make sure the audio is okay. Yeti test. Okay, it's back. I don't know when the mic went off. Just now, I think. She's really helping with just kind of getting life in order. We're both working on this thing. It's calling easing into self-care. We're making a really gradual program to bring you all the way up to our high-end, highly hands-on program called the Happy Human Starship, which is goal setting and the whole deal, but which a couple people here have actually been through. But anyway, that's how low it is, because I want people to get access to this and really begin to dive deeply into this stuff, because for me these days it's got to be more about the healing, because it just has to be. It just has to be. So Jennifer said, I had a kundalini. If you lost my job upside down, it was wild, yet stepping stones for what's going on now. Beautifully. Good, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people did. You can force these things to happen. Right? Doesn't mean you should, right? Yes, they can modify. They can do genetic modifications on organisms. Doesn't mean you should, right? A lot of stuff we can do. Yeah. Savvy Stacker, trauma response? Question mark? Not sure what the question is. Did you say something earlier? Don't see it. Ava, thank you for such a profound and beautiful satsang. You're welcome, love. Jennifer, yes, thank you, Baba. Fantastic satsang, beautiful shares and pointing. So much love and blessings. Savvy Stacker, crazy people in my lineage too. Lucy Borden, really? Well, no, yeah, wow, yeah, okay. That one tops mine. Well, they come close. They come close. Jennifer, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, for crying out loud. Hit the damn like button. Plan. Whoops, bit late. Thank you, G. Welcome, Plan. That's why I have an issue with personality disorder diagnosis. Puts the patients in a box. Limitation of healing. Yeah, I'm seeing more and more therapists breaking out of that. Like everything's got its place. Everything's true, but it's not the whole truth. And if you're going to have a profession, and you don't want to have charlatans, right? You don't have somebody, who has no education or ever just saying, "Oh, I can do that." You have to have some ground rules. You just have to. And those ground rules are going to make a place where you can trust it, so you don't have charlatans, but it's also going to create limitations, right? And that's the nature of things. And so that's kind of what you get. No shitting on yourself and others. I have some blocked memories, just some flashes. I have no desire to dig them up. If I'm supposed to remember, they will come up naturally, in my opinion. Yeah, don't worry about the memories. right? If they're popping up, it means they're in the body. You can release them from the body without having to experience them as the memory. But you do have to release them, right? But there's the deal. That's the big misunderstanding. It was a big misunderstanding, really, going all the way back to Primal Scream and like the stuff that was going on in the late 60s and 70s. And even in the 90s with the ab reaction and the whole idea that in order to release a trauma, you had to re-experience the trauma, which I experienced some of that. And it was traumatizing. The release of the trauma that I experienced was as traumatizing as the original experience. And I went through some EFT training in trauma release, and the training was traumatic. So the memories only tell you that there's something there. So the memories are there. What you do is go into your body and say, is there something here? But don't look for memories. Instead, look at, maybe your body will do something like this, or be a shudder, or something will shake. Okay, there's something there. Right? There's something there, and you might not want to do that alone. Just saying, right? You may want somebody to be there with you. It's called what's the word? I completely forgot the word. So for co-regulating, yeah. We humans need each other, right? Children can't self-regulate. They can't manage their emotions. If you noticed, have you noticed? They cannot regulate their emotions. They have to learn. Their parents help them, right? And of course, if parents are abusive, they never learn how to do it. So, what a good therapist or coach or spiritual teacher will help them to learn how to manage that kind of stuff. Will learn how to walk them through when something is being released from the body. And oftentimes it'll be shaking. I've experienced shaking of stuff going out through all sorts of things. And you just let the body do it, and you don't have to know why it's doing it, which is amazing. It may tell you, it may not. You know, I've had some where it just did it. It was done. I felt the sense of well-being that came after. I said, yeah, it's done. Other times, I saw some of the stuff. Right? That's it. That's enough. It's a very different kind of process. It's somatic, right? It is not talk. Sound's back, yeah. I do have still no voice, lost sound. Let's see. Setting audio. Sounds back. Yeah. Okay, that was from before. Sounds back, all good. Yeah. Okay. Little tricky. Teacher. Children's are beautiful mirrors walking in the light again. Working with an EMDR they're good. Yeah, I love her. Need additional assistance. I'm not just sure what that is yet. I'm available. I don't know where you are in your path exactly. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. And Lisa actually will do a free half-hour consultation as well for folks to just assess where you are and try to give you some guidance as to where to go. So that's available as well. Just go to the site. It's omschool.ca/om-care. And it's pretty much all there. Okay? It all goes to the page that has it all. So, all right, folks. I am done for today. It's time for me to eat. I haven't eaten today, so I think it's time for me to take care of my body, which is complaining a bit right now. So, all right, my lovelies. So good to be with you all. I will see you all in 2 weeks. And actually, I'm going to do the Balyani retreat next Sunday, the 19th. No. That's today. 26th? Yes, the 26th. Thanks. I'll be back in my apartment. So yes, I think I can do it then. All right, everyone. I know it's the whole weekend, Black Friday weekend, and Americans will be shopping like crazy, but if you can take a little bit of time out. All right, my friends. Love you all. Namaste.